Well, here we go again, a bunch of useless bans that are just wasting taxpayer dollars and accomplishing absolutely nothing. Are reptile bans completely useless, and what sort of regulation do we need in this hobby, if any at all? Today, let's talk about it. My name's Adam, this is Diamond, you're watching Wickens Wicked Reptiles, stick around. If you want to get the point of this video in a shorter condensed version, this is the point I'm going to drive home. With no path to legal ownership, there will always be illegal ownership. Simple as that. That is why all-out bans on certain species, for example, do not work at all. If you are going to outlaw, say, tegus, like they're trying to do in South Carolina right now, and there's no way to legally get them, permit system, license, nothing like that, they're just, you cannot have them, you are going to have illegal ownership. Period. And a main beef I have with bans on reptiles is the fact that the lawmakers don't actually know what they're talking about a lot of the time. And I'm not saying that lawmakers are idiots or stupid or anything like that. I'm not saying that at all. All I'm saying is that a lobbyist brings this to task, all of a sudden a bill passes, and it's not because they've done their research. And often it's not bans just on reptiles, but bans on things like shipping animals completely. I'm talking about the bill in New York. Bill 4611 is banning the shipment, or trying to ban the shipment of all animals. This is fish, this is livestock, no! This is reptiles, this is mammals. This is you go to your local reptile shop and they can no longer sell you animals because they can't have them shipped in. And even if they can get their hands on these animals, so what? Now they have to drive to go get them? What's the difference between them being shipped to you and FedEx driving them to you, or you going, it makes absolutely zero sense whatsoever. There is no logic behind this. And if you're thinking, well, why would I listen to this guy who looks like Mr. Clean and Where's Waldo made a baby? I totally get it. I understand. But think for yourself and do some research, and in the comment section below, let me know what you find. Is there one reason, one logical reason why we would all out ban the shipment of animals? It makes absolutely zero sense. So what can we do about it? Is there a solution to all of this? Yes. Just let me rant a little bit more first. So why would somebody want this ban in the first place? Well, you have crazy people who work for crazy lobbyist organizations who say things like, I want all communication between animals and humans to cease. This is something for real that the CEO, former CEO of HSUS, Humane Society of the United States, actually said. For real. For real. This is the same sort of organization that puts on these crying dog videos with Sarah McLachlan whining in the background. This is what these organizations are for. They're not to save your pets. These organizations that have something like $100 million budgets and spend $1 million to actually save your pets, and the rest on advertising and lobbying and things like this. These people are about as good for reptiles and as good for animals in general as SeaWorld or Marineland. Absolutely terrible. These people don't care about your animals, they care about paychecks and they care about influence. And you know what causes influence in government? Money. This may blow your mind, but these people who make these laws aren't going out and consulting real experts. No one's going out and consulting a real expert about reptiles before they put these bills in place. I know you'd think that that's what you would do, because that would make sense, but in general, when laws go through, a lobbyist organization brings it forward, the government kind of says, do I get to keep my job if this happens? Then that's basically how that goes. That's how that goes. These laws are not put in place to protect you. They're not put in place to protect the environment. They're not put in place to protect anything. It is a facade so that the government looks like they're doing something so that they can keep their jobs, so that they can keep money coming in from these lobbyist organizations. Period. Here's an example, because I know that in the comment section, well, what about the invasive species in Florida? We'll get there in a second. How about this one? I live in Canada. Canada looks like this right now. I live in one of the warmest parts of Canada. If you go far north and far west to the prairies in a place like Saskatchewan, that's the real name of a place, it's spelled like this, you get bylaws and laws that outlaw ball pythons. Why? Ball pythons look like this. They can't survive in the winter, they can't kill you, they can't become invasive. Why would you ban an animal that might get to 4 or 5 feet, that has never killed a person in the history of everdom, and definitely cannot destroy your ecosystem? For what purpose? Please give me one reason. So that brings us to places like Florida, or in this case, Georgia, South Carolina, where bills are being introduced that may ban Argentine black and white tegus. Now, could an Argentine black and white tegu possibly become invasive in South Carolina? Maybe. But here's what we can do instead of a ban. Because like I said at the beginning, if you ban them, the only way to own them is illegally, and then you're not going to have any sort of way to own them legally, which is going to create more people who own them illegally. That's how that works. Instead, make a process so that only people who are serious about keeping these, people who can't fly by night and just go to an expo and, that thing looks cute, I'll buy that when it's this big and then it gets to 4 feet, make sure that you go through some sort of licensing or permit system. I don't think that permits for certain animals are a bad thing. I think all-out bans are, and I think registration is definitely a bad thing because registration almost always leads to confiscation. Registration leads to confiscation. I believe that as much as I believe the sun will come up tomorrow, and if you think this is some conspiracy theory, ask any firearms owner in Canada about the whole confiscation after registration thing. That's what happens. So instead of registering, instead of bans, why don't we create a permit system? Something where even if it's an online test and you have to answer questions and you have to show that you have a certain type of enclosure or something along those lines. I'm no genius.
No way.
Obviously. But I think this is a much better option because there are several reasons why you'd want to own a tegu. Maybe you're someone who is allergic to dogs and you want a substantial sized animal, something that is not fragile, but something that is well behaved and can be a great companion. Black and white tegus, they're not gonna kill you, for sure. Maybe they could injure you, but so could a Rottweiler or a Chihuahua. So it doesn't really make sense that you're outlawing these things other than the risk of them becoming invasive. If you get someone with a permit who has proven that they know this thing is gonna get to 4 feet, they know what it eats, they have the enclosure, that sort of thing, you will have people who are qualified to actually own them. Is this perfect? No, but it's an idea I came up with when thinking about this video instead of bans, because bans do not work. And I am going a little bit hard right now. At the end of the day, people who make these laws aren't stupid. They're just doing their jobs. I totally understand that. But I think that we need a backbone as a community, and we need to support people like USARK. Organizations like USARK actually fight for our rights to keep these reptiles. They keep the government from just trampling over us and treating us like doormats and accepting every bill they put in place. If you have reptiles, especially if you live in the US, just give them a buck. Give them a buck. Buy a shirt, something. Bills like this are killing people's livelihood. Imagine you invested your life. Imagine you invested all of your money and your business is breeding reptiles, or you have a reptile zoo, and now all of a sudden you live in Alabama where they're trying to outlaw big constrictors, rock pythons, Burmese pythons, things like that. You can no longer keep these animals, but you are a breeder of them. That's how you make your living. That's how you put your kids through school. Your kid can play soccer. Your kid can play organized sports. Your kid can go to dance classes because of the money you bring in from this. All of a sudden now, what was legal yesterday is illegal today. And that's how these laws happen, by the way. In that law in Alabama that is being proposed, that bill, that isn't you can't breed these, you're grandfathered in. That's you have these animals, you are now an outlaw. You have to get rid of them. You cannot possess these animals. And it's absolutely ridiculous and it is dangerous. Now, if these bans were self-police bans, or there was regulations that were self-policed and the reptile community came together and said, hey, maybe we shouldn't keep this or that, that would make sense. But who makes these laws? Who makes these bills? Who proposes these laws? Not us. It's not anybody who knows anything about reptiles. It's people who don't like reptiles. No reptile keeper, no one with a experience in keeping reptiles has ever brought a bill like this. And that is why I am so convinced that these reptile laws and bans are absolutely ridiculous. And forget the reptile community. What about reptiles themselves? The reason I am so obsessed let's use the word obsessed, it's true, with reptiles is because when I was a kid, my librarian's husband ran one of these educational programs with reptiles. When I was a kid and I was in junior kindergarten, 4 years old, a whole bunch of reptiles came to my school, my eyes opened like dinner plates, I couldn't believe what I was seeing, I was already obsessed with dinosaurs and this was the closest thing. From that time, when I was 4 years old, I am almost 30 years old now, I have been obsessed with reptiles because of that program. That's what inspired what I do today. If it wasn't for that show, I don't know if I would have any interest in reptiles at all. House Bill 3008 in Oregon is really going to destroy this whole opportunity that I got because of these shows. They're going to make it illegal to transport these animals for education, for shows, road shows, whatever. There's no reason for this. It's Oregon. You're not going to have a Burmese python, for example, ball python, whatever, live in Oregon. It's just not going to happen. They're not going to become invasive. You're not seeing people getting killed at these animals. Like, I don't understand why you would even put this bill in place in the first place. It is a nonsensical law. It's going to destroy the livelihood of anyone who does this. And by the way, people who educate with reptiles for a living, we don't make lots of money. It's not like we're getting rich doing this. We do this because we love it, because we love the animals, and we want to inspire and educate other people, especially young people, so that you have a lifelong respect for these animals. What combats fear is education. If you know that a ball python is a harmless little thing and it's not some scary snake, slimy demon thing, this snake is the devil. Everything is the devil to you, mama! Well, that's not the case at all. And the reason that I know that is because I learned at a young age because of an educational show like that. In Oregon, they're trying to kill the opportunity to learn as a young child, and that's just going to instill fear of reptiles because you weren't exposed to them at a young age. And if you're thinking, well, I don't live in Oregon, I don't live in Florida, whatever, I get it. I live in Canada. This isn't even the same country as me, these bills that are going on. We have bills like that here in Canada, but they don't get as much attention because we have a small population. Anyway, here's why you should care. If we give them 1 inch, they will take a mile, or 10, or 100. And what I mean by that is, if this bill passes in Oregon, if this bill passes in South Carolina, wherever you are, it's going to pass there next. Because other states, other countries find these bills, see that they pass, and if a lobbyist organization comes to them and presents them the same thing, it sets a precedent. So all of a sudden, now it passed over here, so why wouldn't it pass where I am here? It is dangerous, it is disgusting what these bills are trying to do to our hobby and to the livelihood of a lot of people, and potentially the future livelihood of a lot of people as well, and overall, and most importantly, the respect for these animals. We get so much respect and learn so much respect by handling these animals, by being exposed to them, by keeping them, by breeding them. We are actually potentially having the ability to revitalize entire populations. There are more crested geckos in captivity than there are in the wild. If it ever came to a point where crested geckos were, as we thought they were until 1994, extinct or becoming extinct, we have the ability to revitalize that population. If you take that away, and this might be a small part, a very small part of why it's so important, but why would we want to take that ability away? Okay, I understand that I sound like an old man telling the government to get off my lawn, and I do agree that for certain examples, we should have government intervention. We should have the government telling us that we cannot have things like Komodo dragons in private collections. I get that. We should have the ability to prevent people, poachers, from bringing in animals that are nearly extinct and just have a free-for-all and collect them in the wild so that we can't have them here. I totally understand that. But Tegus in South Carolina aren't going to destroy your ecosystem, and they're not going to kill your kid. They're not going to eat your dog, not going to eat your cat. It's not the boogeyman. It's not going to lower the resale value on your house.
Side effects may include nausea, vomiting, water weight gain, lower back pain, receding hairline, eczema, seborrheic psoriasis.
Whatever it is you're afraid of, you're not going to have pink eye 3 times a year because you have one. I don't know what it is you're afraid of, but it's not going to happen. It's a ridiculous law. Okay, what are the solutions? Put in a permit system. If that's what you really want to do, if you really think something needs to be done, put in a permit system. And that way you punish the people who are breaking the law, and those who are serious, those who are really serious, actually go ahead and get their permit, and they can keep these animals, and they don't have to look over their shoulder from keeping them. And if you are going to outlaw something, which you should not do, and I totally disagree with, don't take away the animals that are already in possession. Because what's going to happen to, let's suppose in Alabama, this bill passes. I really hope it doesn't. It would be disgusting if it does. But if it does, and all of a sudden every berm and every retic in Alabama needs to be handed over, what do you think is going to happen? Do you think the government is going to spend any money, time, or resources in rehoming these animals? Or do you think you're going to have a bunch of euthanized snakes? That's exactly what's going to happen. You are literally killing animals by letting these bills pass. I don't mean to be so angry at you. It's not your fault. But there is something you can do. And if you have $1 to give, USARK. It's an American company. I'm in Canada. I still donate to USARK. Buy a t-shirt, something. Do something that to show your support. And really, these are the only ones. These are the only guys. And if they don't have funding, if they do not have funding to help us, well, we're kind of all dead in the water here. And to put my money where my mouth is, every month I do a live stream. Every month I donate to a certain charity, and this month I'll be donating a portion of the proceeds from this month's live stream, which is likely going to be tomorrow or Saturday. Hit the subscribe and notification bell so that you know when it happens. I'm going to donate a portion of any of the super chats and all the ad revenue to USARK. Yeah. So if you'd like to show up, donate some money, or just buy a shirt, support them directly, whatever, please do. These are really the only guys who are kind of trying to help us out here. Well, thanks for listening to my rant. I really do appreciate it. Please do hit subscribe. Most of the videos I offer like some insightfulness or tell you about reptiles, and don't just scream at the camera in my basement like a crazy person. But I think this is important. Let me know in the comment section below, what do you think? Do you think that bans of any sort are useful? Do you think I got it wrong? Let me know exactly what you think. I'm open-minded to this. I would love to think the government is right and has our backs, but in this case, they probably don't. A special thank you to the Patreon supporters. Thank you guys so much. I really appreciate the support. You get to see videos early, discounts on the merch. There is several animals in my collection that no one knows about except for you guys. So for as little as $1 a month, you can support WWR on Patreon. And I think I've done enough talking for today. So hit subscribe. See you on Monday.